Hey, what's up, everybody? Shaun back with you guys for week number 3 of NFL picks and daily fantasy plays. You may notice a little bit of a change, and that is that it is voice only this week. That's right, I'm taking a cue from Bridgewater's finest blockbuster _ guy at Twitter, Justin Robar, who does YouTube picks as well, and he does audio only. And I thought, you know what? I put a lot of time and research in these picks, and it's kind of hard to get up and film a video and then do all the video editing as well that goes along with it. So audio is going to be a little bit easier for me to allow the time to research the games, but then also to deliver an easier format to give this to you guys in. So being that it's audio only, I'm going to go ahead and put a lot of text down below, just as Justin does. Basically down below, you're going to find my ATS picks for the week all laid out for you. You'll see the Draftkings recommendations. So if you're just here for that information, you just want to see, who I'm taking, and you don't really care why I'm taking them or what I have to say about anything, the games or anything, you can go right down below and see my suggestions for the week and just skip the audio altogether. Also down below, you should note that you'll find other YouTube channels for guys who do picks as well. Some of them are very good. Some of my favorites are Bridgewater's Finest. You also have Poet, who is, the hell is his name now? He changes his name all the time. I think it's King Poet now. You also have GioKnows, the godfather of the YouTube prognosticators. You've got Hatbox. Hatbox also has Billy B, who was my former partner on doing these picks. We started this thing together 6 years ago. And I don't know if I'm missing anybody. Oh, Half Moon's Picks. He does great picks as well. Probably the best editing between him and Hatbox, but I'd probably have to say Half Moon has a little bit better editing. I believe he does that for a living. So you'll find all that stuff down below, right in the description. So you can go ahead and check that out. And right now I'm going to go ahead and get into my review of week 2 and how I did. So against the spread in week number 2, my 1-star plays were 2-2. My 2-star plays were 1-1, kind of ironic. My 3-star plays were 2-3. My 4-star plays were a whopping 0-4. And my 5-star plays were a whopping 0-1. So I did not have a good week 2, nor did I have a good week 1 either. So overall, I am 5-5 on my 1-star plays, 2-3 on my 2-star plays, 2-5 in my 3-star plays, 1-7 in my 4-star plays, and 1-1 in my 5-star plays. That brings my total against the spread record to 11-21. So it is not good at all. However, side note, with the lines, I guess, changing and being a little bit different on Yahoo, in the Yahoo Pick'em League for the YouTube prognosticators, I am actually at 14-18 for my record against the spread. So I assume that has something to do with the lines changing slightly before game time as they update as the week goes on. Side note, I will be using the lines as of Tuesday for the Yahoo Against the Spread League for my picks this week. My Draftkings last week. So we had quarterbacks. I gave you Derek Carr. He scored 25. Drew Brees scored 14.5. Blake Bortles scored 24.6. CJ Anderson for running backs scored 18.3. Ezekiel Elliot 15.7. Lamar Miller only 11.7. My worst pick of the week. Of course, you could also say Drew Brees was a bad pick since he only scored 14.5 at the quarterback position. Wide receivers, I said Amari Cooper, he was 12.1, so he didn't really live up to expectations. Willie Snead got 16.4, and DeAndre Hopkins got 27.3, so he did very well. I gave you tight ends of Julius Thomas, who got 11.1, Greg Olsen, who got 26.2, by far the best pick in terms of tight ends, and Jordan Reed, who got 12. So there was no real duds there that I gave you guys, considering nobody really got under 10 points. However, I mean, really, you can say there was a couple duds because obviously getting 14.5 from Drew Brees is not going to win you any tournaments in DraftKings. That's just too low of a number to get from the quarterback spot. You need at least 20 from your quarterback. Really, theoretically, to do well in one of those DraftKings tournaments, you need 20 from every one of your players. So it's pretty tough to do. But if you're looking to just do a double up and get in the money, then you need at least about 15 from everybody. So theoretically, all the running backs were pretty solid, except Lamar Miller at 11.7. Receiver-wise, you're pretty solid there, except for Cooper. And tight ends, I mean, I only hit on one of them, but the tight end position, I feel like this year has not really been hitting very strongly. All right, and finally, we're going to move on to the all-free agent team. The all-free agent team I gave you guys was actually after my waiver wire took place in my league, so I waited till after the Wednesday waiver wire to go and form a team. And then I realized, why am I doing that? We have a money system where we bid on free agents, so I was thinking in my head, why am I doing it this way? That's just a really dumb way to do it. I should have been doing this before the waiver wire took place. Why screw myself, really, and hurt my chances of forming a good team? So anyways, I did this last week after the waiver wire took place. For this week's team, I did it before the waiver wire. All right, so my all-free agent team in my league, again, just to recap, these are players who were available in the free agent pool in my league, and I went ahead and took a team together based on how we do it, which is half a point PPR, 2 running backs, 2 receivers, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, kicker, defense, and a flex. So we had quarterback Joe Flacco. He scored us 18.17 on Yahoo under my league, again, using my league's scoring format of 0.5 PPR. We have Tarvaris Cadet scoring 2.7, Shaun Draughn getting 2.10, Ted Ginn Jr. 4.6, Cole Beasely 10, Kyle Rudolph 10.6, Nick Folk 13, and the Baltimore defense 12. And we finished off with our flex player of Breshard Perriman getting 4.2. The total points scored were 77.37, which, interestingly enough, out of the 12 teams in the league, that 77.37 would have actually beaten 2 teams out of those 12 teams outright. It would have been within 1 point of beating a third team and within 3 points of beating a fourth. So an all-free agent lineup, amazingly enough, you can actually put together somewhat of a competitive roster, all things considered. So if maybe you've had some injuries in your fantasy league this year, maybe things aren't going your way to start, you can always look into the free agent pool, kind of look at matchups and who might perform well based on matchups, and go ahead and kind of pick up some players, because all hope is not lost. All right, so looking at this week's against the spread plays, I've decided to do away with the star system because clearly my picks have just been pretty horrible all around, and the star system really hasn't provided me much clarity in which games I'm good or bad at. I'm just apparently bad at all of them. So having said that, let's start with the Thursday night game. And I like Houston in that game, -2.5 over New England. You're talking about a third-string quarterback who is a rookie in Brissett starting for the Patriots. Clearly, he thought, I'll be sitting behind Tom Brady and Jimmy Garoppolo. I'll be able to learn slowly and come along and take my time. And all of a sudden, he's thrust into action. And he performed well. 6 of 9, I believe, were his numbers for 92 yards. So he played well in the action he was kind of thrust upon this past Sunday. However, I don't think he's going to perform so well against a tougher defense in the Houston Texans defense. So let's go with Houston -2.5. Arizona -4 at Buffalo. We're getting the Arizona Cardinals here, who are a much better team than Buffalo at -4. So that's not half bad. I will take that. Then we have the Denver Broncos, who are +3. I like them to win that game over Cincinnati, probably outright, but hey, we're getting 3 points, so let's go ahead and roll with that against the spread. Then we have Detroit, who is +7.5 over the Green Bay Packers. Aaron Rodgers has not really looked the same this year. Granted, he's had still some amazing throws and shown flashes of being the Aaron Rodgers that we all know. However, he's really struggled this year, and so I'm not too sure that 7.5 points is not a little too high there for the Detroit Lions. I mean, you're talking about getting over a touchdown here. So I'm going to go with Detroit +7.5 over Green Bay. Oakland is +1.5 over Tennessee. My whole fantasy team is pretty much comprised of Oakland Raiders. I mentioned this, I think, last week, but my starting quarterback is Derek Carr. Then you look at my running back, I have Latavius Murray, and I have Amari Cooper and Michael Crabtree starting at receiver. Side note, I also scored the second most points in the league through 2 weeks, and it's not by much that I'm off from first place, only about 10 points. Then we move down to and I don't know if I gave you that last game. If I didn't, Oakland +1.5 over Tennessee is the way I like that game to go. Cleveland is +10 over Miami. Miami's not a very good team, and Cleveland's not a very good team. Granted, Cleveland might be rolling with a third-string quarterback here. However, I am not going to let that deter me, and I will take Cleveland +10. As I mentioned last week, when I see spreads of 10 or more, I typically take the team that's getting that many points because they are still NFL players, and they should be able to cover a 10-point spread. However, last week it did not work out so well when I took San Francisco +13.5 over the Carolina Panthers. But I digress. I go with it again this week. Let's go with Cleveland plus 10 over Miami. And then we look at Washington. They are plus 4.5 over the New York Giants. I think Kirk Cousins comes out here and has a pretty good game and goes ahead and gets the win. I think they win this game outright, so I also like them plus 4.5. Billy B took this game as well over on Hatbox's channel as his upset of the week, which brings me to Hatbox's upset of the week, which is Minnesota plus 7.5 over Carolina. Of course, I like Minnesota to win this game outright. I also like them plus 7.5. Sam Bradford looked great last week, so I think that they're going to be just fine in his hands. Also, side note, it's kind of funny. I almost feel like WCW back in the day when they told you that Mankind was going to win the title on WWE. So there was no need to tune into WWE because they just told you what was going to happen. So you should stay tuned to their network. I almost feel a little bit like WCW here since I just told you the upset picks for Hatbox's channel for him and Billy B. That wasn't my intention. Go check out their channel. There's other good stuff in there, including a shame report at the end that's pretty funny. And he asked for bold predictions for the week and all that. Speaking of which, what's your bold predictions for the week? Leave them down in the comments below, and the winners will be chosen next week. And I will put your comments on the channel. Anyways, back to the picks. We have Baltimore and Jacksonville, which is currently at a pick'em. I'm going to pick Baltimore because I don't really believe in either of these teams. However, Joe Flacco doesn't turn the ball over nearly as much as Blake Bortles does. So let's go with the team that's probably going to turn the ball over less in Baltimore. Next game, we have Seattle minus 9.5, and they're playing San Francisco. I like Seattle to cover the 9.5 points over the San Francisco 49ers. I know this is sort of going against what I said when teams have 10 or more. I typically go with the team getting 10 or more, but this is slightly under 10, so I think that we're okay to go with Seattle minus 9.5 here. I think Russell Wilson will finally come alive and show some heart this season and actually get some things done here on offense. Meanwhile, San Francisco, they looked great week 1 against the Rams. They didn't look so good against the Panthers last week, which, you could say that's to be expected. The Panthers are a much better team, but in any case, let's go with Seattle minus 9.5. I like the LA Rams here, plus 4.5 over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Jameis Winston looked awful last week, throwing 4 interceptions, and I don't think he's going to look much better against a tough Rams defense. The question is, will the Rams offense be able to do anything? And I kind of think Todd Gurley is going to go off this week against this Tampa Bay defense. I think this will be the week where people go, I drafted him so high in my fantasy league on purpose, and finally he's showing me why I drafted him so high in my fantasy league. I think that'll be the week for some people, including the guy in my league who has Gurley and tried to trade him to me in exchange for Le'Veon Bell and Latavius Murray, which I said, absolutely not, my friend. All right, the next game is Indianapolis, who is minus 2.5 over San Diego. I like Indy minus 2.5. This game should be a high-scoring game. I think this will be the highest-scoring game of the week, and I believe Vegas had it as such as well. So I'm looking at this game particularly for a lot of DraftKings plays, and I like Indianapolis to just kind of win this game. It's going to be a shootout, but I think they can cover the 2.5, so let's go with Indy minus 2.5. The next game is Kansas City minus 3 over the New York Jets. I like Kansas City to win this one. Then we have Philadelphia plus 5 over Pittsburgh. I like Philly plus the points. Carson Wentz has looked amazing, and I know it's been against 2 weak defenses, but the throws this kid is making are unbelievable. You're talking about what is an NFL quarterback's job? It's to get the receiver the ball and make sure that only he can make a play at it. And, we haven't had a quarterback like this in Philadelphia since I've been around. That's including McNabb or Vic or any of the guys that have been in here, Kevin Kolb, any of the starters we've had. We've never had a quarterback like Carson Wentz since I've been around. Now, Sam Bradford could have had potential to be like that, and he showed a little bit of that in Minnesota, showed a little bit of it at the end of the year last year as well. But the way Wentz throws that ball around, he gives his receivers chances to make plays at the ball, which is what you need to do. You need to put the ball somewhere where only the receiver can make a play at it and give him a chance, and Wentz does that. And he puts it on there with great accuracy. He's got a great zip on the ball. He's got great mobility. He's really smart. You can see him making plays at the line. Reminds you of a young Peyton Manning when he's going over there and making audibles. I'm not trying to hype the guy up too much, but from what we've seen in 2 games, these are the things you've seen. So, I'm not trying to go overboard and say he's the next coming of Peyton Manning here, but, he's looked great in the first 2 games. It's way better than I thought. I hated the trade when we made it, but Carson Wentz looks really good, so I like Philadelphia plus 5 over Pittsburgh. Then we have Dallas -4.5 over Chicago. I like Dallas and Dak Prescott to go ahead and win this game. The Bears are going to be without Jay Cutler, and the Bears with Jay Cutler weren't very good to begin with, so with the backup quarterback, they're not going to be very good either. So let's go with Dallas here. And finally, we have New Orleans -3 over Atlanta. I like New Orleans to win this game outright. I like them to cover. I just don't really believe in Atlanta, but I think this game could go either way. If you're talking about games you would like to avoid, that would be one I would definitely say that you should try to avoid if possible. Now I'm going to move on to my all-free agent lineup, and again, I did it this week prior to the waiver wire taking place. We have quarterback Joe Flacco going against Jacksonville. Matt Asiata from the Minnesota Vikings going against Carolina. Shaun Draughn again versus Seattle. The running backs in my free agent pool are very, very limited, so we have to kind of go with what we can. Receivers, I have Cole Beasely versus Chicago. Devonta Adams versus Detroit. Jacob Tamme versus New Orleans. Matt Prater versus Green Bay. Tampa Bay versus LA. As my defense, and my flex is Jamison Crowder versus the New York Giants. Okay, so for my DraftKings lineup, I've got quarterback Phillip Rivers. And before I go into my DraftKings lineup, I should probably tell you I changed the way I did it a little bit this week. Rather than give you guys the top performing players as I think they will be, I decided to give you guys my best DraftKings lineup. So my best DraftKings lineup is Phillip Rivers at quarterback. We got running backs, Isaiah Crowell. He was cheap enough that we, had to basically throw him in. Running back, I went with David Johnson for the second running back slot. Receivers, I went with Odell Beckham Jr., Stephon Diggs, and Quincy Enunwa from the Jets. My tight end, I went with Antonio Gates. Flex, I went with Cole Beasley. And for D, I went with Seattle. All right, everybody, thanks for tuning in. Let me know down below what you think of the new format, if you like it, if you don't like it. If you actually stay tuned this long, I'm actually pretty surprised and pretty impressed. All right, guys, thanks for tuning in for week 3, and I will see you guys for week 4.